On the frigid night of November 9, 1953, train number 247 departed Chicago's Union Station, carrying 63 passengers and 7 crew members bound for New York City. It was supposed to arrive at Central Station by 6:45 a.m. But the train never made it. The last confirmed sighting came near Williamsport, Pennsylvania, at 2:30 a.m. After that, it simply vanished. No wreckage, no distress signals, nothing. For months, search teams combed forests, rivers, and every inch of track along its route. But there was no trace of the train or its passengers. Among the missing was a businessman with dangerous connections to Chicago's criminal underworld, traveling to testify against powerful mob figures. His last telegram, sent from Toledo, Ohio, hinted at something sinister. They know. If I don't make it out, I won't be coming back. What really happened to train number 247? This investigation will uncover shocking secrets and leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. On the frigid night of November 9, 1953, Chicago's Union Station was a hive of activity. Despite the biting wind slicing through the streets, commuters bustled through the cavernous station, eager to escape the chill and settle into the warmth of their departing trains. Among the scheduled departures was train number 247, a standard overnight route from Chicago to New York City. At exactly 10:15 p.m., the locomotive pulled away from the platform, its steel wheels grinding over the icy tracks. Inside, the atmosphere was subdued. Businessmen in pressed suits clutched briefcases or leafed through newspapers. Students mumbled sleepily over textbooks, and elderly passengers rested their heads against the frosted glass, their bodies cocooned in heavy coats. There were also several uniformed military personnel heading home on leave, their gazes distant and their faces etched with fatigue. The train carried a total of 63 passengers and 7 crew members. The crew comprised 5 conductors and a 2-man locomotive team, engineer Thomas Grady and fireman Daniel Mercer. Grady was a seasoned rail worker, known for his unwavering professionalism, while Mercer, though younger and less experienced, had earned a reputation for being diligent and quick-witted. The route was a well-traveled one, cutting through Indiana and Ohio before passing through the wooded hills of Pennsylvania and finally arriving in New York City. Train number 247 made scheduled stops in Gary, South Bend, Fort Wayne, and Toledo before continuing eastward. Nothing appeared out of the ordinary. Shortly before midnight, the train made its stop in Toledo, Ohio. It was here that several passengers would later recall seeing 4 men board the train. They were sharply dressed, their demeanor serious and purposeful. One of them bore a distinctive scar across his cheek, his expression cold and severe. Though they entered separately, there was an unspoken connection between them, something that made the other passengers uneasy. The train resumed its journey at 11:40 p.m. As it hurtled through the Ohio night, cutting through snow and darkness, it passed small towns and empty fields now buried under fresh layers of frost. At precisely 11:45 p.m., William Billy Thornton, a businessman with known connections to Chicago's criminal underworld, sent a telegram from the Toledo station. It read, "They know. If I don't make it out, I won't be coming back." The message was cryptic but urgent. Thornton had been under federal investigation for his alleged role in organized crime, though he had not yet been formally charged. His connections to the Chicago outfit, a powerful crime syndicate, were well known but difficult to prove. Thornton's decision to board train number 247 had been a calculated one. He was scheduled to testify before a grand jury in New York, providing evidence that could cripple several key figures in the mob's hierarchy. But the telegram suggested he feared for his life, a concern that would prove disturbingly prescient. The last confirmed sighting of train number 247 came from a signal operator stationed near Williamsport, Pennsylvania, at approximately 2:30 a.m. According to his report, the train passed through the area without issue. Its speed was consistent, its lights visible through the swirling snow. But by morning, something was clearly wrong. The train was scheduled to arrive at New York's Central Station at 6:45 a.m. When it failed to appear, station officials assumed a delay caused by the poor weather conditions. But as the hours dragged on, concern grew. Multiple attempts to contact the train by radio were met with nothing but static. By 10 a.m., the authorities were notified. Railroad officials scrambled to trace the train's route, dispatching search parties along the tracks and issuing alerts to every station between Chicago and New York. But there was no sign of the train. 2 days later, a hunter near Williamsport stumbled upon a bloodied conductor's uniform tangled in a patch of dense underbrush. The uniform was later identified as belonging to Leonard Harris, one of the 5 conductors on train number 247. His blood was still fresh, staining the snow like spilled ink. This discovery prompted a massive investigation. Helicopters combed the surrounding forests, rivers were dredged, and every available man was sent to search the wilderness. But despite the thoroughness of the operation, no further evidence was found. The train and all its passengers had simply vanished. As the days turned into weeks, rumors and theories spread like wildfire. The most widely accepted explanation was that train number 247 had been hijacked by members of the Chicago outfit. According to this theory, the train had been diverted to a remote location where Thornton was executed before he could testify. The passengers, unfortunate witnesses to the crime, were also eliminated to prevent any chance of exposure. Other theories suggested that the train had derailed and plunged into a river or ravine. But extensive searches along the route revealed no wreckage, no bodies, and no sign of a crash. Some investigators noted that Thornton had been involved in illegal trafficking operations that exploited rail networks for smuggling drugs and weapons. They speculated that the train itself might have been transporting something of immense value, something worth killing for. Despite the relentless efforts of local police, the FBI, and private investigators hired by the victims' families, the case remained unsolved. No bodies were ever found, no ransom demands were made, and train number 247 never appeared on any track or in any rail yard. In 1954, the case was officially closed, with authorities admitting they had exhausted all available leads. Yet for the families of the 63 passengers and 7 crew members, closure remained a distant hope. The disappearance of train number 247 remains one of the most perplexing unsolved cases in American history. To this day, the wreckage has never been recovered, and the fates of those on board are shrouded in darkness.
In 1977, Eastern Airlines Flight 709 departed from Miami, Florida, bound for New York City. A routine flight that would never reach its destination. Somewhere over South Carolina, the plane simply vanished. On August 17, 1977, Eastern Airlines Flight 709 departed Miami International Airport at 10:35 a.m., bound for New York City's LaGuardia Airport. The Lockheed L-1011 TriStar carried 52 passengers and 6 crew members. It was a routine flight, scheduled to take just under 3 hours. 2 hours into the journey, as the plane flew over South Carolina, air traffic control suddenly lost all communication. Flight 709 vanished from radar screens without any distress call or sign of trouble. The sudden disappearance sparked a massive search operation. Over the next 6 weeks, search teams from the FAA, the U.S. Coast Guard, and the FBI scoured the suspected crash area, which stretched from South Carolina to Georgia. Yet, no debris, wreckage, or bodies were ever found. Theories ranged from mechanical failure to hijacking, but nothing explained the complete absence of wreckage. Newspapers dubbed it the ghost flight. In 1995, nearly 18 years after the disappearance, a hunter named James Collins stumbled upon twisted metal wreckage deep within the Oconee National Forest in Georgia. The area, part of a former military testing site, had been closed to the public since the 1960s. Amidst the overgrown foliage, Collins found remnants of an aircraft, including parts of the fuselage bearing the faded Eastern Airlines logo. But even more disturbing were the scattered belongings, suitcases, clothing, and documents. Strangely, there were no bodies. When Collins reported the find, the FBI and FAA launched a joint investigation. Forensic experts confirmed the wreckage belonged to Flight 709. Yet, the absence of bodies baffled investigators. During the inspection, officials discovered several briefcases filled with cash and confidential financial documents linked to James T. Wilkins, a prominent banker from New York City, known for handling investments for some of the most influential figures of the era, including members of organized crime families. Following extensive research and interviews with former mafia associates, a chilling plot emerged. It turned out that Wilkins was involved in a money laundering operation for the Genovese crime family. Documents aboard Flight 709 held details of transactions worth millions of dollars, implicating numerous high-profile individuals. On the day of the flight, a group of hired mercenaries carried out a meticulously planned operation to divert the aircraft. Using outdated military technology and forged FAA credentials, they redirected Flight 709 to land at a makeshift runway within the abandoned military testing site. All passengers and crew were executed to eliminate witnesses. The mercenaries extracted the documents and cash, torching the plane to destroy evidence. However, the forest's density prevented the fire from spreading, leaving the plane's remains partially intact. During the late 1970s, the mafia's influence extended deep into politics, law enforcement, and business. Records of the search efforts were tampered with, and officials were paid off to dismiss the incident as an unsolved mystery. The case was officially closed in 1980, and the families of the victims were left with nothing but theories and shattered hopes. Despite the discovery in 1995, authorities never pursued further investigation. The official story remains that Flight 709 was simply a tragic, unexplained aviation disaster. But with the truth now revealed, one question lingers. How many more hidden crimes have been buried under the weight of corruption and power?
On a chilly night in 1983, a Greyhound bus carrying 24 passengers departed New York City, bound for Chicago. It was an ordinary trip. Business travelers, tourists, and drifters all sharing the same cramped, dimly lit cabin. But what happened along Interstate 80 would leave investigators baffled for decades. The bus departed the New York terminal at precisely 11:45 p.m. Its route was straightforward. Drive through Pennsylvania, skim past Cleveland, and finally arrive in Chicago by morning. The passengers were tired but content, most of them dozing off as the wheels hummed steadily along the asphalt. The last confirmed sighting of the bus was recorded at 2:30 a.m. by a traffic camera outside Cleveland. From that point, it simply vanished. When the bus failed to arrive in Chicago by 10 a.m., worried relatives began contacting authorities. But by then, the vehicle was already long gone. Local police and the FBI launched an exhaustive search along the entire route. Helicopters scanned highways, rivers were dredged, and nearby forests were combed. But no signs of an accident, debris, or even tire tracks were ever found. It was as if the bus had been plucked from existence. With no evidence of foul play, theories started to swirl. Some believed the bus had been hijacked and its passengers kidnapped. Others claimed the vehicle had somehow driven off a cliff or into a body of water. Yet, no trace of the bus or its passengers was ever located. But there was one detail that investigators couldn't ignore. Among the passengers was Michael the Rat Costa, a known mafia informant scheduled to testify against one of the most powerful crime families in Chicago. His testimony could have crippled the syndicate, and his name was already circulating among underworld hitmen. Rumors spread that the mob had orchestrated the entire disappearance. Some suggested that Costa had been extracted from the bus, while others believed the entire vehicle was disposed of to eliminate any potential witnesses. But without evidence, it remained a mystery. Years went by.
The case faded into obscurity, remembered only by the families of the missing and conspiracy theorists obsessed with unsolved mysteries. But then, in 2003, everything changed. A truck driver hauling freight through northern Indiana accidentally stumbled upon the rusted shell of a bus in an abandoned coal mine near Gary. Inside the vehicle, investigators found torn luggage, personal belongings, and faded Polaroid photos, proof that this was indeed the missing Greyhound. But the most shocking discovery was the bullet holes riddling the bus's interior. Bloodstains splattered across the seats told a chilling story of violence, and amidst the wreckage, investigators found an old notebook belonging to Costa himself. It contained pages of handwritten notes implicating several high-ranking mafia members. The truth became clear. The bus had been intercepted, diverted to the abandoned mine, and its passengers systematically executed. Costa's death was brutal but calculated, an effort to silence him before he could testify. Officially, the case was closed in 2004, with authorities admitting the likely involvement of organized crime. But the families of the other passengers never received justice. To them, their loved ones were nothing more than collateral damage in a brutal act of retaliation. What really happened that night? And could something like this happen again? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shocked you as much as it shocked us, you know what to do.